What is critical race theory? We've heard this idea out there, but I want every single one of our viewers to be able to define it within just a few sentences so they can spread the word and tell their school boards, etc., why this is a giant problem. What is it?
Well, it's really an issue, a concept that I think your listeners should get very, very well acquainted with, because it has entered the schools, not just the children's schools, but all universities. Basically, what it is a program to dismantle Western, especially American society in our case, through criticism. You tear down all the institutions. You tear down the family. You tear down the schools. You tear down history, tradition, through intense criticism, and then you replace all these institutions with something new. Obviously, critical race theory does this by looking at everything through the prism of race. Critical theory is an earlier concept, started in the 30s. Was the same thing, but didn't just look at everything through race. In America, because we're obsessed with race, we use race to look at everything. This has really entered our classrooms. It is being taught in elementary schools, in middle schools, in high schools, and in colleges. And one important notion that I don't want to leave out is that it analyzes all of life as being divided between categories, but not just categories of oppressors and categories of the oppressed. And it looks at history as something that the oppressors have written, and that needs to be replaced with a counter narrative from the oppressed classes, from the marginalized classes. That's just a very rough definition. We can get into it later if you want.
No, that's great. No, it's great. So what's tricky about all these things is there's always a kernel of truth to this, right? So like it's the kernel is it's good to question things. It's good to question history and interpretations and our founding. It's good to question these things. So where do they take it too far, this idea of criticism?
Well, you make a very good point here. First, we need critical thinking. We need to analyze things critically. When the 55 delegates were meeting in the Philadelphia Convention, they were saying, well, at one point they were saying, well, slavery is something that's going to go away very fast. There was a general feeling in 1787, and actually throughout the whole revolutionary period, that there was going to be a contagion of liberty. You can take a look at that debate and say, well, they actually, the founders felt this way, and then things later on, which we can get into, didn't happen that way. You can just say, actually, this was used as an excuse by some not to deal with slavery squarely. So you can actually have this debate, but that is not what critical theory does. That's not critical. Critical theory is rather the opposite of critical thinking. Critical theory says, no, you must criticize the founders. What they did was to try to preserve slavery. They were slave owners, and so it actually takes away any attempt at weighing both sides and having a good-natured, political, agenda-free debate.
Wow, that was deep and insightful. I want more of that. Like, subscribe, get more.